Some people call the founder of NIO the Elon Musk of China. And with an innovative battery as a service model, how legitimate is NIO as an EV contender? By market cap, NIO is already one of the world's most valuable automakers. So in this video, we are going to find out what's under the hood. This is part of my renewable energy series, so feel free to check out my lithium-ion battery supply chain video after this one. Also, for transparency's sake, I don't own any NIO shares, but I do have Tesla shares. So make sure you take what I say with a grain of salt, and I've tried to be as objective as I could be in this video. As usual, this video is not financial advice or recommendation to do anything. It's just general information for entertainment purposes. So without further ado, let's go!
Whoa.
The first thing I want to clarify is that despite the similarities between Tesla and NIO, their mission is actually fundamentally different. Tesla wants to accelerate the world's transition towards sustainable energy, whereas NIO's mission is focusing on lifestyle and reshaping the car owner's relationship with the electric vehicle. NIO's not looking to manufacture their own cars or designing the autonomous driving chip that goes inside the vehicle. They want to focus on designing and making their cars into a mobile living space. They currently have 3 SUV models in the market, and you can purchase these cars via their app. So let me show you the app because it's pretty damn amazing, and everything is in Chinese, so I will translate as I go. Now, once you enter the app, it's literally like a social media app. There is many different content pieces, e-commerce functions as well that I'll show you in just a second. But more importantly, we want to go to the car section. Now, we can start picking our cars here. And NIO's cars are not cheap at all. Let's say we'll go with NIO ES6. Even if we pick the most basic version, it's about 343,000 renminbi. So that's approximately 69,000 Australian dollars. And of course, you have the choice of going with the 70 kilowatt battery pack or the 100 kilowatt battery pack. Now, of course, if you want a bigger battery pack, it will cost you more. But if you choose the battery as a service option, it does substantially reduce the entry price. And that price tag is just so much easier on the eyes. Now, this app already has 800,000 downloads and 200,000 daily active users back in 2019. So I can't imagine the community they have on this app by now. What's really interesting is that as you scroll down the content pieces, this one that you see in front of you is actually a challenge for NIO owners to drive from Beijing to Xi'an. There are many other challenges like this as well. What's even more crazy is the e-commerce function. As part of NIO's live offerings, you can literally buy mugs, food, home fragrances, heaters, coffee beans, I kid you not, even beer. And then there's also NIO House, which is basically like a startup space where people can go enjoy talks, brainstorm, or just hang out. Yes, NIO also have a mobile charging service where they show up, they give you a bit of juice, and then off you go. My point is, despite the similarities between Tesla and NIO, their mission is fundamentally different. Now, the rest of this video is going to be broken into 2 parts. In the first part, I'm going to examine all of the core components of NIO, the vehicle production, battery as a service, and also their autopilot features. Then, I'm going to look at some simple valuation metrics and then give my verdict. Before we start with NIO's vehicle production, let me make some quick comments around market size and customer preference in China. Close to 50% of the world's EV sales are in China, with more than 1 million EVs sold each year. NIO delivered more than 36,000 vehicles in 2020, increasing 111% year on year. What's really interesting to me is that according to McKinsey China, the sweet spot for vehicles in China is between 200,000 to about 300,000 renminbi. And China recently have cut their subsidies by 10% in 2020, making it only available for EVs costing less than $300,000. But there is an exception for EVs with a standardized swappable batteries, where the subsidies are available regardless of the price. So with NIO's battery as a service option and the subsidy, it does put NIO's price tag just within that sweet spot of 200 to about 300,000 renminbi. And that will really help with sales volume in the future. In saying that, NIO does outsource their manufacturing to a state-owned entity, JAC Motors. And whether they can ramp up manufacturing to meet the demands is one thing, but the cheap oil prices making ICE vehicles even cheaper to own is a completely other thing. Not to mention, Tesla have received their approval to sell Model Y in China. With the manufacturing advancements that Tesla has made, it's expected that once Model Y goes into mass manufacturing mode, the entry price for that vehicle will be dropped to about 270,000 renminbi. So in the future, Model Y will also be in that sweet spot of between 200 to about 300,000 renminbi. But as it stands, Model Y is pretty expensive at 488,000 renminbi. Nevertheless, NIO's battery as a service option, together with the subsidies, will put them in an incredibly advantageous sales position in the future. But how will that actually eventuate? We'll have to wait and see. Next, let's talk about NIO's battery as a service model. And to give you a bit more perspective, NIO's ES8 without the battery as a service option is about 450,000 renminbi. With the BaaS option, the initial price drops to 380,000 renminbi. Now the good thing about the battery as a service option is that customers can swap for a bigger or smaller battery in the swap station depending on what they need, and they can pay for it on a monthly basis. According to NIO, they have completed more than 1 million battery swaps in October 2020, backed by 1,200 patents in battery swap technologies and 150 swap stations in China. The number of swaps is absolutely incredible, and growing the battery swap infrastructure in China is actually also a national interest. In order to provide BaaS, NIO is working with CATL and 2 other partners through a battery asset company. And as many of you know, CATL is one of the world's largest battery supplier, if not the largest. And the scope of this company includes leasing, maintenance, wholesale, and retail of batteries, including recycling, R&D, and also design of EV charging and swap infrastructure. Now, I'm going to enter the speculation zone for a second. And I think a big part of the reason why China is pushing for battery swap infrastructure is because of the battery supply chain. China currently have one of the world's largest battery manufacturers in CATL, and also one of the world's largest lithium producers, Ganfeng Lithium, and majority of the battery supply chain actually have to flow through China before it reaches its end customers. So a big portion of the value in the battery supply chain and electric vehicles are actually captured in China. And having a mature battery swap infrastructure will almost guarantee that these batteries are not leaving China, which builds a moat to ensure that the value of the battery supply chain and electric vehicles are continuously captured within China as well. So long story short, if there was one place that battery as a service model would work, China would have one of the highest probability of success. Tesla have tried battery swap technologies in the past and it didn't work out, mainly because a lack of demand, and also there was anxiety around, if I were to do a battery swap, what if I get a battery with significantly more mileage on it? And this brings me to the downside of battery as a service model. Since NIO is separating the car and battery ownership, they are responsible for all of the deterioration and devaluation of those batteries. And as many of you know, EV batteries are not a piece of real estate. It deteriorates over time the more you use it. On top of that, there are heavy capital expenditure and operational expenses with building battery swap stations. Not to mention, you have to stock up on EV batteries in each of those stations and a service team. Because we're only at the beginning of this battery as a service model, we don't really know whether the economics are going to work out for both NIO and CATL. But I stand by what I said. If there was one place that battery as a service model would work, it would be in China. It has all the right ingredients with government support. So I'm very excited to see how this will pan out. Okay, now we gotta talk about NIO's plan for autonomous driving. NIO partnered with Mobileye from Intel in hopes of bringing level 4 autonomous driving for the consumers in China from 2022. It's important to remember that NIO will be using Mobileye's autonomous driving chips, their cameras, and also their software. By the way, level 4 autonomous driving basically just means that it can drive on its own. You can intervene from time to time, but it can only drive on its own within a specific area. So this is also known as geofencing. Level 5 autonomous driving is basically like iRobot type stuff. The car doesn't need any steering wheels. It can do everything a human can do on any road anywhere in the world. Mobileye's autonomous driving tech is camera-based with their own chip, so incredibly similar to Tesla's autonomous driving stack. I won't go into autonomous driving tech too much here, but if you're really keen to learn more about that, make sure you gently tap that like button, and if this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll create a dedicated video just for that. It just takes a long time to make those videos. Now my question is, between Tesla and Mobileye, who has the more superior self-driving tech? As you know, part of what makes autonomous driving work is not just a large dataset, but edge cases. Like for example, bike on the back of a car, camel on the back of a truck, etc. The goal is to be able to train a machine to be able to handle these extreme situations when they do show up in life. According to MIT researcher Lex Freeman, Tesla's fleet of cars across the world have racked up more than 3 billion autopilot miles. And the more cars they sell, the faster those autopilot miles will grow. But according to Mobileye, they are currently collecting 6 million kilometers of data per day, which is approximately 3 million miles from their existing OEMs like BMW, Nissan, or Volkswagen. With more cars coming online to use Mobileye, you can expect the miles of data being harvested is going to grow exponentially. So it's a perfectly reasonable assumption to make that Mobileye could get very close to match Tesla's autopilot miles. But then again, there's also the question of what is the quality of that dataset, and is it specific to electric vehicles? From the sheer amount of autopilot miles, not to mention the quality of that dataset, I think Mobileye still got some ground to cover. On top of that, Mobileye's hardware and software is not built specifically for NIO. A really good example to think about this is the performance difference between the Apple computers made with an M1 chip, which is designed specifically for Apple, versus the Intel chips that was used by Apple for the older gen of computers, and I don't need to mention all of the different heat issues and speed issues. The same thing applies here when Tesla's hardware and software is built specifically for their electric vehicles. And on top of that, NIO will have to pay additional premium to Mobileye for their hardware and their software to be implemented in their cars. All of that does not mean you should underestimate NIO and Mobileye's autonomous driving feature. Mobileye recently released a 40-minute unedited version of their autonomous driving in Jerusalem. You can argue that its geofence is highly optimized for that area, but frankly speaking, it looks really good and it shows that the computer can handle really tough challenges on the road. And don't forget, Tesla was using Mobileye before they parted ways. Finally, let's talk numbers. I'm not worried about NIO's cash position because they just received $1 billion worth of funding from state-owned entities in China. And you already know that NIO is on a healthy trajectory of growth when it comes to their revenue and also the gross margin expansion. But as crazy as it sounds, especially coming from me, NIO is trading at 29 times sales and 36 times enterprise value, which makes Tesla looks cheap. Don't get me wrong, in the Chinese EV market, NIO is riding tailwind of the century, and some of these tailwinds are amplified by government policies. More battery swap infrastructure, subsidy exceptions for EVs with standardized batteries, and with most of the battery supply chain flowing through China. Yeah, I think NIO is a legitimate EV contender, especially in China. But the valuation is so steep, and it seems like right now you're investing for the vision instead of the business model. Because of that, for now, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines and just learn more about the business before I jump in. So what do you think? What are some of the important things about NIO that I missed in this video that you really think I should have talked about? So thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. If you want to be part of my fortnightly Q&A, not to mention some additional content pieces, consider supporting this channel via Patreon. Nonetheless, it really means the world to me that you watched this far. So remember to gently smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and click onto the bell so that when I release future videos, you'll be the first one to know. Now, if you're in the mood for more videos, I have left something on the screen that I think you'll really enjoy. And of course, Auto will always do the honors, and see you very, very soon.